Thank you so much for taking the time to talk about your new book. Congratulations on it. Talk to us a little bit about the inspiration behind it. Why was now the perfect time to write it?
I think for me, it was just kind of happened organically. I started writing things in my notes of my phone, just ideas about conversations and things that I kind of couldn't get out of my head that I felt like I wanted to write in order to organize my thoughts.
Yeah. You talk about your journey, obviously, and it's a complicated journey that you say started at a very young age, that your
Mhm.
beauty was very celebrated, your parents were proud of it, that you'd been sexualized at a young age, and that your body was your biggest blessing and curse, which really hit home for me. What did you mean exactly by that?
I think all women, no matter how you're raised or whatever, have the experience of as you hit puberty, putting on a bathing suit and feeling both the attention you get from boys, but then also the kind of shaming and the feeling uncomfortable. And you don't really know if it's a good or bad thing once you become a woman. And I think that it was really important for me to sort of talk about girlhood. I mean, I didn't even know what sex was at that point, but I was looking like a woman, so people didn't know how to react, and I didn't know if it was good or bad. My body.
Yeah. Wow. One thing that you talk about in the book is, your relationship with social media, the pressures of social media. You talked about that relatability. Women, as we sort of come into our own, sometimes we're coming into our own before we even know what that means. And earlier and earlier, younger and younger, these girls are on social media, seeing images and sort of internalizing these messages around it. What is your relationship with social media these days? What is your dynamic, particularly with Instagram, right? It's very
Yeah.
visual platform.
I mean, I think that whether you have 8 million followers or 8 followers, you have the same experience of that validation. Like, I mean, I think we all are used to now kind of having our life be in the public eye to some extent, because the internet lives forever. And for me, I didn't grow up with Instagram. I was, it was before that time. I had like MySpace, but I still was very impacted by kind of the images of women. And I think that for me, it was one of the reasons I wanted to write this book is like what you see on Instagram is sort of one level of my life. It's very glamorous. It's sort of like perfect and whatever. And, giving young women and women just in general, the reality of like what my internal thoughts are and what my experiences have been was very important to me. And it
Yeah.
wasn't something I could do with social media.
Yeah. Do you think that desire, that quest for validation that we all seek in various ways ever really goes away?
No, and I'm so interested. I mean, I think it's one thing I write about in the book with my mom. It's sort of like as you become an older woman and like, men don't look at you on the street in the same way. And you're kind of like, maybe I'm relieved, like not to be bothered, or do I miss that? And that's something, I haven't had that experience yet. But I do think, of course we want to, be beautiful and have attention. I think that's like very normal.
Yeah, yeah. That's really fascinating, actually, what you said about even the same way we kind of grow into that attention, potentially coming out of it or evolving out of it, and the complicated emotions around, am I happier now that I'm not getting those googly eyes or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah,
Or, so yeah, that's
yeah.
really a complicated layered thing to think about. One of the biggest revelations from the book, and I want to give a direct quote here from it, is you were talking about leaving a party, and you said, I thought about my stupid selfies, my stupid dress, and my stupid eyeliner. I shut my eyes tight. I felt a sudden urge to disappear. Could you
Mm.
speak a little bit to, your mindset there, what you meant by that? Why disappear in the middle of all of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's so many ways that women blame themselves when you have that experience of kind of feeling all of a sudden very self-aware of the ways that you've tried to be beautiful or to be noticed in a certain way. And then it can sometimes, really work, or sometimes it can backfire, but it doesn't always make you feel good. And I think in that particular section, I was sort of feeling like if I wasn't a part of this equation, like I was at a party with my husband and he had been having a pretty good time and I was all in my feelings and kind of like ruining his night, to be honest. And there were people who, were interacting with us in ways that were really upsetting to me. And it just felt like, well, if I just stopped trying, if I just wasn't here, everything would be better for everyone else. I'm the problem.
Hmm. And in the book, you explore those feelings. Do you feel like you've gotten to a place in your life where that's no longer true for you, where those feelings of I'm the problem, if I just disappeared, it would be easier? Have those feelings subsided? Is that work that you've done to sort of reconcile those emotions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always hesitant, and I really was with the book, especially hesitant to sort of like wrap a bow around it and be like, everything's better, because that's just not how I feel. I mean, the last essay in the book is about sort of how my relationship to my body has changed, just being able to appreciate the small moments where, like riding a bike with my friends, or learning to express anger in a healthy way, or giving birth to my son. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And I still definitely am kind of, a lot of the things that I'm grappling with in the text are still things I'm grappling with to this day.
Mhm, mhm. In the book, you also talk about your experience on the Blurred Lines music video set. I'm curious to know, did you have any reservations about being in the video, knowing that you were going to have to be naked on set?
Yes, so I did, but at that point I was a working model and the money was decent. And I was like, that's great. I really didn't think that the video was going to be huge. I just kind of was going into it as like, this is my job and this is my payday today. Yeah.
Yeah. What sort of ground rules, if any, were you able to set going into this, what should be a working environment, a professional environment? And, when did it cross the line?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, why I included this essay and that story in the book, which to be honest with you, I didn't want to, because I knew it was sort of like the juicy, gossipy part, and that the book would end up, that would be kind of grabbing the headlines rather than the overall point. But I'm sort of happy to talk about it because I also think that it's an example of my overall experience as a woman, that kind of double-edged sword. That set was filled with women. It was a director, the DP, the makeup artist, the prop designer. They were all women. And I think one of the reasons that I give the performance I do in that was because I was having so much fun. I was just feeling goofy. And honestly, compared to other jobs I was doing at that point, it was like the most fun I'd ever had on set. And, when people asked me about the video when it first came out, I sort of was very defiant and protective and said, yeah, that was empowerment. Like, I felt good. I felt like I own my nakedness, screw anyone who tries to tell me otherwise. And now that I'm older, I want to explain what the actual power dynamics were like. And that means that, it was Robin Thicke's music video. And so when he touched me inappropriately, there was nothing that like any of those women who were all having a really good time together could really do. I was, aware that there was somebody who was probably smarter, prettier, who would be happy to just take my role at any point. And that's, I think, those are the kind of power dynamics that I want to talk about, not just in the industry, but outside of it, just in life.
Yeah. Um, I would assume, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so please clarify, but the theme of power dynamics, right? It's so important. It's a conversation that we're having in a much more public way these last few years, especially. What are you hoping that men, period, learn from this conversation, learn from, the dynamics that are at play on these working sets in any professional setting, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so complicated because so much of the conversation is about like men adjusting, and obviously men need to change, but overall, just the whole culture and the way we think about power needs to adjust. I think that toxic masculinity is also a huge problem. It's part of the reason that like men feel like they can't express their emotions and then do things where they kind of exercise their power and women get hurt. So for me, it's a really large cultural shift, and it's bigger than even some of the movements of the last couple of years. It's
Yeah.
sort of just even saying that these power dynamics exist and being able to talk about them, and talk about male desire and how much that impacts the way women operate in any field.
Yeah. Yeah. And before I let you go, I know we're running out of time here. On a happier note, a much lighter and a very beautiful note, you're a mom to a beautiful
Yeah.
baby boy. How is that going? How has motherhood changed you? What's his latest milestone? What's he
Oh my
doing?
God. So he's 8 months old today, actually. Thank you so much for asking. This is my favorite thing to talk about.
I
He
love it. I
has
see your face
beautiful
lighting.
lower teeth. Yeah. He just crawled up the stairs, which I was obviously excited about because it's a milestone, but I also just couldn't believe it. And I'm, you know, as a mom, you're always nervous. You're like, what's the
Yeah.
next step?
Right.
So he's standing up, he's doing all this stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. It's I've never been so productive in my life. I wake up really early and you don't have time for yourself in the same way. So every moment I'm kind of doing things. And I think it's made me a better person, which is really
Wow.
nice.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Beautiful to hear. I'm so happy for you.